Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome to Autogefühl. Well, they say that good things come in small packages, and I'm pretty sure that Fiat would agree with that statement. Since its production run from 1957 until 1975, Fiat sold 4 million of their original 500s. In 2004, Roberto Giolito was asked to design a concept for its next replacement. And ever since production in 2007, people have been loving it. Now existing in various different forms with a nice wide range of engine, Fiat are looking for new ways to innovate. Enter the mirror. Well, this is the latest, most up-to-date technological Fiat 500 you can buy. But is it worth the money? Let's find out. There are lots of things to really like about the 500, not least that since the arrival of the new Beetle and the new Mini, it seemed as if the redesign of these originally small cars was going to focus on the styling and the practicality and less on maintaining the identity of the original in their compact forms. Well, Fiat decided that that was an integral part of their design, and because of that, ever since 2007, the cars don't just look very similar stylistically to their predecessors, but they're also pleasingly small. That really gives them the advantage when driving around town, nipping in and out of traffic. So, okay, you're familiar with the most recent design of the Fiat 500. What does the mirror offer that's different? Well, as you can see, stylistically, really very little has changed. And there's a good argument for that. If it isn't broken, why fix it? I think you can see from the front looks of this car what the intention is. It's fun. Really, everything about this car is supposed to give you that impression. And when they decided that they wanted to launch a new special edition for the mirror, they didn't really want to detract from those elements. After all, if you'll remember not so long ago, Thomas took the Abarth version out for a spin. I think that was probably pushing it about as far as it was likely to go in that direction. So this really is mostly about bringing the new technology into the Fiat 500 and seeing just what that can achieve. At 3 meters 54 or 11'6" in length, this certainly does fit into the compact class, but there are some unique styling details here to tell us that this is a special edition. These are special 16-inch alloy rims. They're unique for this car. We have nice chrome detailing here, and we have this special mirror badge. Okay, so it's not lots, but it does just add stylistically to the side of the car to tell you it's not just your run-of-the-mill 500. If you look at the sweep of the roofline, you can see here we have a really nice large panoramic roof. We're going to be looking at that in a little bit more detail later on from the inside to see how that helps us with the driving experience. Each one of the brand new mirror editions of the 500 come with their own unique colour. This one is Italia Blue. I have to say, I'm really quite taken with it, and I think it looks very nice against the snow here. However, be warned, if you want anything other than the standard base colour, that's going to set you back an extra €500. So that's what you're going to be paying for this. But if you want a special edition, I think it's worth putting out the extra money. Now, as regular viewers may know, I'm always a fan of talking about the back of the car, especially from the way that it looks from a car behind. I think the Fiat 500 as a design object is great. It looks fun from the front, fun from the side, and fun from the back. And that's really what I want from this car. But, as you know, it's very small. Is there really any boot space at all? Let's take a quick look. Well, as with many other features of the car, there isn't a huge amount of deviation here from the standard 500. So I have to say, I love this. This is the world's smallest parcel shelf. I have no idea which parcels you could put on there, but I like that it's included anyway. We've got over 100 litres of load space back here. Honestly, you're not going to be buying this car if having a huge amount of room back here is important to you. That said, you could still fit a standard small suitcase in there, not maybe so much golf clubs. Let's have a look underneath and see what we have. Well, here we have a very nicely laid out storage facility that will just keep everything that comes with the car. So really no extra space to be found there. I think we're talking about shopping and short weekend breaks, but honestly, what else would you want to be doing with the car? Seats will fold down in a 50-50 split, however, and that does mean that if you do need to get something larger in, and let's be honest, you're probably not going to be driving around too many backseat passengers in this car, you still should just about manage to find enough space. So we just have a little bit more time in the increasingly getting bad Frankfurt weather. We really did want to show you, this is the base color. This is the color you will get on the 500 if you don't want to spend out on exclusive. Now, it looks nice enough. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think if you're going to go with a special edition model, you want it to look special. So I'm all about saying that's probably money worth spending. But I have to tell you, it's not only the standard 500 that is available in the mirror edition. We can also get a 500L as a mirror, and we can also get the 500X as a mirror. Sadly, we don't have the time today to show you those cars. Just worth pointing out that they also have a range of engine options available to them. If you want to know more, please check on the website. They also come with exclusive colors. Let's just show you that. Now, this is the 500X, and I believe this is called Denim Blue. And I think it looks absolutely great. I don't know if this is only going to be ever available on the X, but I'd like to see it on more cars. It looks great. We have another blue on the 500L. Yeah, it's nice. But for me, it doesn't quite have the same kind of special finish that you get from either the 500 or the X. Now, we'd love to tell you more about these cars. As I said, we don't quite have time today, but I will just say this. If you're going to go with a Fiat 500, I think there's no better example of that than the original. So, although these look fun to me, I know which one I'd pick. How about you? So let's take a look inside. Start off with the key. It's obviously a pretty basic affair, but it's nice, it's inoffensive. And let's look at this door handle. I have to say, this is more chrome trim. It feels really good in the hand. It's nice and solid. And on a slightly less expensive car, I think that's a really good feature. Door opens in a very satisfying kind of a way. Now, before I actually sit down, I'm going to come around the other side of the car so Michelle can show you one of the features that this mirror comes with. It actually has completely newly designed seats in it. And that means that hopefully we're dealing with one of the most common complaints about the 500, which is the fact that with the higher seating position, you don't have so much flexibility. Well, we now have this lever down here, which, if Michelle can focus on that seat, does actually give us a little bit more in the way of changeability, but it only pivots at the back. So you don't have a real opportunity to adjust the height of the seat in total, but it's a lot better than not having any adjustment there at all. I'm going to come around and take a seat in the front and we'll have a talk about the rest of the interior. So I asked Michelle if he could really have a look at me getting into this car, because as you can see, it's not the easiest car to get into. Now, once you're in it, those new seats actually feel pretty nice. And I like the way that they're finished. They actually feel pretty easy to clean and they are very comfortable to sit in. But as you can see, if Michelle looks down at my knee, there really isn't a huge amount of room here, and I do not have long legs. I am 1.78 m or 5'10" in height. I do have a long torso though, and lucky for me, we have a sunroof here, because if I pull over this screen, you can immediately see the issue. I'm not a tall person, but I do not have much headroom, and I can honestly say if I owned this car, that thing's permanently going to be back. But that said, with it back, I am actually very comfortable. With me in position, this car is very nice to sit in, as long as you don't either have to get into it or out of it with any degree of speed. Now, we do have a steering wheel that will tilt up and down, and that gives us a bit more flexibility, but there is no telescoping this steering wheel, which means that you have to have the seat in the right position for your arm length. And again, that's going to limit your overall space to move around the cockpit. I think so. Again, what I'm saying is that once you're in this car, it feels comfortable, it feels nice. but getting in and out, a little bit more challenging. Now, once you're in here, you have the opportunity to look at some of these trim details. Obviously, this is not the world's most expensive car, so you wouldn't expect the finish to be amazing, but it's clean and straightforward. I guess I could make a possible gripe that this door pocket isn't big enough to hold a bottle of water. Really, it's not going to do a lot more than pens. It's very long, but very shallow, as you can see from my hand there. So you can't fit a lot of things in here, but it is a very small car. We have more sort of chrome effect here on the door handle, and again, that's nice and pleasingly solid. So that's going to feel good as you come in and out of the car. Let's take a look at the dash. This is really where the styling for this car, the special edition mirror, takes off. We can see that we have a color matched dashboard that goes with the paint that really helps with the youthful feel. The space has been well used. The fact that we have this lighter touch on both the sides and the ceiling means that you don't feel cramped in here. There is an extraordinary amount of equipment really scrunched into a remarkably small space. So I think in order to be fair to the design, you really have to take that into account. We're going to take a little bit more look at the infotainment and how the controls are laid out, but Michelle's going to come around the other side to do that. As you can see, Fiat have gone to quite a lot of trouble to make the driver experience feel premium, and that's really nice in a small car. But the key words are small car. We look for the uprated technology that we know from bigger, more expensive cars, but you have to be prepared to understand this is not a bigger car. So for example, if Michelle pulls slightly further back, we can see that we have these controls on the steering wheel. And if you're used to steering wheel controls, you would be expecting to be able to cycle through the options available to you here. But if you actually want to adjust the menu for your digital display in the center, then you have to use these controls. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world, because we shouldn't really be doing that while we're driving along anyway. It's just one of the little compromises you expect with trying to fit these things into a smaller car. It's very pleasing to look at while you're driving. It's slightly reminiscent of the Mini central display. I particularly have never been a huge fan of having all that information in the middle. I like it more discreetly tucked away here. And it works nicely in concert with this. And this is the feature that Fiat want you to know all about. So now we get to the centerpiece of the Fiat 500 mirror. This is the Uconnect 7-inch HD Live. And okay, it's not the biggest news in terms of technology, but it is really quite big news when it comes to a small car application. It has the standard Apple and Android features that we've come to expect from more expensive models, but they're really nicely integrated into this car. I think you can see from the shot that this unit, rather than standing proud as you get in, say, a Ford Fiesta, where to my taste it's never really quite fitted, this unit looks completely at home in this car, not least because the finish on the surface is actually matte. Ordinarily, you'll find a high gloss surface on these units. The problem with that is it makes them fingerprint magnets. Now, that's for the best quality of screen resolution, but it does also reflect light an awful lot. So we're compromising a little bit in terms of screen quality in order to, one, not have a reflective surface, and two, not show up our fingerprints. And I have to say I like that. Well, obviously, we have tried connecting a phone to see how that connectivity works. So I'm just going to plug in and we'll see how easy that is. And I have Android Auto starting up on my phone. I have to say my phone was locked, if you wondered why that took so long. And here we go, instantly and straight away. And I found it intuitive and easy to use. I sent a WhatsApp message to my wife. It was really easy. I just spoke directly to the car. The microphone picked it up all really well. I didn't have any issues with doing it whatsoever. So if you're familiar with Android Auto, it really is very straightforward to use on this car. Intuitive and easy, and I like that a great deal. I also have to say I really like the styling. I think it's great the way that the controls are laid out in such a simple manner. This isn't supposed to look like a spaceship, and it doesn't. It's supposed to be fun, and it is. Look at this. We've just got straightforward controls here. You want eco mode? Good. Straightforward, right where you want it to be. You want to set the air conditioning and the heating? Right here. Couldn't really be easier. You want a gear stick knob that looks a little bit like you want to copy a GTI? Okay. Well, we'll give you one. It's more like an 8-ball, I suppose. It's fun. I mean, that's what I'm going to say. We drove the car a little earlier. I said the gearbox felt a little agricultural to me. This gearbox, I think, fits that well. You can really get it to wherever you need it to be without feeling that it's delicate and breakable. And I have to say I like that. Window controls are nicely integrated here into the center console as well. Now, I think this could have been done a little bit better. Let's take a look between the seats. We have to expect compromises in a car of this size. But, you know, given that this main feature of this car is its connectivity, I think they could have done a little better with providing us somewhere to put our phone. Let's not forget that in order to take advantage of the features of the Apple or the Android connectivity, you have to connect via USB cable. That means I can't put it, you know, in a pocket or in the glove compartment. And where can I put it? Well, if I put it here, that, I guess, works okay. I'm not in love with it, but it works okay. Obviously, we have the cup holders back here, 12-volt charge point over here, and this is where the connectivity kicks in. We have an aux in, that's good, and we have the USB connection. When we left, I put my phone here. You can see the obvious problem with that. That's clearly not where it goes. So I think that's the happiest fit for the phone, and at least you don't have an issue with the larger iPhones back there. Coming slightly further back, we have 2 cup holders for the rear seat passengers and a very standard layout for the brake. All plastic, easy to keep clean, pretty minimalistic, nothing there to upset you too much. Now, one of my favorite features of any car, and I haven't looked in it yet, is the glove box going to be capable of holding anything at all? Let's find out. It's right by Michelle's knee, so this is going to be a very interesting shot. Here we go. He's done a good job. Here we go. What are you thinking, Michelle? Can we get things in here?
It depends.
Look at that. I think that's absolutely superb. I have seen much, much smaller storage areas on much, much larger cars. So I'm slightly happier about that than I was about the door pockets. Lots of room there to keep anything you need to keep in the car. Let's take a quick look at the dashboard and the detailing on the sides. Very straightforward, hard plastic, nothing to get too excited about, but nothing to feel too bad about either. These Beats details on the speaker grills and with the logo here are nicely finished. And it just feels fun. It's in keeping with the entire car. As far as my driving position is concerned for the overall experience, I talked already about the head. Doesn't bother me with the screen open, would do if it was shut. My view of the road is actually pretty good. I'm looking down at it, straight through the window, so I have good forward visibility. This, however, not so good. If I turn around to check my blind spot between the headrest and the B pillar, I can't really see much of anything at all. So an important feature to check out, I think. Everything about a small car is going to be a compromise. And in terms of what this car achieves within its size, I actually think it's pretty great. So come on, now let's take a look in the back and see, honestly, can we really fit people back there? So first of all, let's get out of the car. Well, that wasn't the easiest maneuver, but it wasn't so bad. I'm pleased to say accessing the back is very straightforward. You just have one clip and then look, the seat just slides out of the way. So assuming that you're able-bodied and not elderly, this car doesn't present too many challenges to get back here. Well, get ready to be astonished. This is my legroom. I have huge amounts of room given the size of car that I'm sitting in. Well, that's the good news. And now for the less good news, but wholly predictable. Michelle goes up to my head. Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? So if I had to travel for any distance in this car, or just lift the headrest up, I think that's as far as it goes. I'm either going to have to travel like that or like this. But come on, this was never designed to take grown adults, and you have to be impressed by the amount of room they've managed to squeeze back here. For children, it's going to be fantastic. And that's why we've got these anchor points down here, so we can fit 2 car seats back here. Let's see if we can fold the seat down and access the rear from within the car. Look at that. All of our clutter. That's actually brilliantly straightforward and simple. So you can have a passenger back here and a larger load that fits through the back, or 2 passengers with the seats up. And again, for the size of car, I actually think that's pretty fantastic. Now, something I just wanted to mention to you, because we found it while we were filming, this pocket is not the most accessible. If you put something in here like a phone, then unfortunately the minute you start driving, the phone goes down to the back. And the problem with that is, because of the siding of this seat, you can't access that when the door is shut. So it's just something to bear in mind. Unless you're using this as a storage area for things that you never really get to need, if you have to access it, you probably shouldn't put it in here. Certainly the effective use of the pocket when the door is shut is only this portion here. Let's take a look inside and see what's powering this thing. Okay, wow. That actually makes pretty nice use of the space. This is the second engine up from the base. This is the Twin Air 85 horsepower model. And as you can see, there's not a huge amount of room available there, but slightly surprisingly, there are bigger engines you can get. If you want the entrance engine, you're going to be looking at a 1.2 litre 69 horsepower model. This is the 0.9 Twin Air, which produces 85. The one above is also 0.9 Twin Air Turbo. That's 105 horsepower. And the top model is going to come in as a 1.3 16 valve multi-jet, 95 horsepower. Now, for my money, I'm thinking that if you're going for this car, really you want to gain the benefit of the best economy it has to offer. So I am definitely personally going to be looking at the smaller engines for this. Yeah, you can have bigger engines with more power, but realistically, how much power do you want to put into a small car? So I'd rather have the fuel economy and just enjoy the drive without getting too stressed about it. I think the engine layout's really nice. You may or may not know that this is transverse engine mounting, which actually in the original car was one of the first that was ever fitted. So it's been really very well taken up right throughout the industry, throughout its production run. Now, obviously, you have much newer technology that's making fuel efficiency even better all the time. You can't get away from the fact, however, it is an engine in a very small space, and when you're driving along the road, you can hear that. But I think you expect that from a small car. So all things considered, really quite nice. I think something else that's worth mentioning about the experience of using this car, you may or may not have heard about the Dutch right-hand door thing. And what that is, in case you're not familiar with it, is a lot of people cycle in Holland, and because of that they recommend that you use the hand that's not closest to the door for opening it. And the reason for that is it's really quite unnatural to do that, but you don't automatically push the door wide open, and therefore there's much less of a chance of killing a cyclist. Clearly a good thing. Why am I mentioning that? Well, it's time to put the seatbelt on. It's not that easy. So you might want to think about different ways of getting to it. So let's take a look and see how the car drives. Well, clearly the most likely place you're going to be taking this car is around town. So that's where we've chosen to start. Lots of traffic lights. We're just coming into downtown Frankfurt. So we really want to see how's the gear change, how's the pick up and accelerate, how's the brake, and how's the handling. We really need to be able to feel that we can nip in and out of traffic in this car. Otherwise, there's really no need for having one this small. But I think it's going to deliver something that really is quite exciting. And we're off. So, pulls away relatively smoothly. The gearbox does feel quite agricultural, but in order to keep the price down, obviously we are lacking that lovely smooth gear change that we'd all ideally like. It does feel nice and solidly built, which means that I'm not concerned about hurting it at all. The cabin noise isn't bad. Really, if you don't put your foot down, it's very good indeed. I don't get too much exterior sound. Because of how far the engine has to come into the design of the car itself, there just isn't enough room to fit extensive soundproofing, and because of that, if you put your foot down, you do get quite a lot of cabin noise. You're not going to be putting your foot down too heavily in this car, so really it's fine, and for driving around in normal conditions, it's very good indeed. Now, You're obviously going to be concerned about safety in a smaller car. I'm very happy to tell you that this car comes with 7 different airbags, both front and side. And that's clearly a nice feeling when you're in something a little bit smaller to know you have that extra protection. Brakes, well, they're actually pretty responsive. And so they should be. This car, I think, comes in at around about 1,000 kilograms. It's very light, so you don't need to have massive braking power. But it does deliver, and we've driven in some snow and ice today, and it performed very nicely there too. Although I will say this car has been fitted out with winter tyres, and you really do feel the benefit of that. Hopefully, with summer tyres, the ride should be even more comfortable, but around town through the potholes, it's really very nice. Now, we just pulled past the lorry there. If you can hear, that's the lower range of second and the lower range of third. I think it's one of those things that once you get used to the sound of the engine and the gearbox in conjunction, you won't hear it anymore. It just takes a little bit of adjusting to. Now, if you're wondering what I mean by that, if you've driven, say, the Volkswagen Up and compared that with the Volkswagen Golf in terms of how the smaller car contains that technology, it's a similar kind of thing here. But it does feel a little bit more agricultural, I think is a fair word. But you can't compare this to larger, more refined cars. Look at the price point. We're around about, I think, including the extras on this car, 17,000 euro. And that's not a lot for a car that's going to deliver you pretty great fuel economy and last for a long time. So that was a good chance for us to try out the stop-start function on the engine. It's actually pretty nice. When you sit at traffic, you don't really want to be burning fuel that you don't have to. Sometimes, there we go, a little bit close to a car that wanted to take me out on the left-hand side. Due to the size of the car, I felt very comfortable indeed. Well, that just happened. A perfect classic example of a town maneuver, which, driver smoking, explains a lot, which is very different in a small car to a larger one. You just have so much more freedom. So let's talk about the overview of the car. Well, I'm happy to say that all of the elements actually come together very nicely. The elevated driving position means that I don't feel like the smallest thing on the road. I feel quite bullish. I was just bullied by an Audi driver and I had no problem at all letting him know that I wasn't going to take that. I feel that I'm up where I need to be. So I'm getting the best of that height. Does that mean that I have to suffer something in terms of more movement with a car chassis? Actually not. Around town, it's very polite indeed. I think what I'm trying to say is that all of these individual components on the 500 could experience a little improvement, but when you put them all together and accept that what you're dealing with is a compromise in terms of everything to deliver the best size and performance for the city, it comes together really nicely. And you know what? It's fun. And in a car like this, you have to say that's probably the most important thing. Regular viewers of Autogefühl may have seen the review that I did on the Peugeot 508 at Geneva, and some of our viewers felt that I was a little bit too negative about that car. So Thomas decided he wanted to set me a challenge, and he asked me if I would come and review the Fiat 500 Special Mirror Edition, just to see how I get on with it. Well, obviously, you can't compare a Fiat 500 to an Audi A6, a BMW M3, or, you know, anything that you would dream of driving. But come on, most of us can't afford to own those cars anyway. So realistically, what is this car about once it gets on the road? Well, I'm actually very happy to be able to tell you that given its remarkably small wheelbase, the handling on the highway actually is surprisingly good, as is the comfort. This seat, which I was not the biggest fan of when I first sat in, deals with the bumps and the uneven road surface really rather well. Okay, the engine sounds like it's only got 3 cylinders when you put your foot down on the accelerator, but it actually has a reasonable amount of pickup. I feel pretty safe and secure. The elevated seating position doesn't give me that small car concern that you often have when you're right behind a lorry. So overall, so far, for highway driving, really not bad. So, we've mentioned the fact it's got a small wheelbase. We've also talked about the fact that we've got this elevated seating position. You would assume that's going to give you a little bit of roll. We've got a highway exit now. I'm going to take this at reasonable speed to see how safe it feels. again, surprisingly nice. Obviously, we do get a significant amount of lean over on the car, but I absolutely feel that I'm connected to the road and I'm not concerned about that in any way, shape or form. So that's quite an impressive bit of engineering. Although you don't want to go too fast around those corners. As much as it's nice to get the car out on the open road to see what it can do, clearly most of the driving that this car has been designed for and will be used for is going to be in and around about town. So we're just on the outskirts of Frankfurt at the moment, and we're in what you would call a very usual, normal urban area. Lots of traffic lights, lots of obstacles, pedestrians. It's going to be really interesting to see how the car handles this. Now, in case you're watching this review thinking, well, you know, I know the Fiat 500, I already understand that as a car, and this is a special edition that largely features on styling and technology, not so much in terms of what it offers for drive. It's always interesting to see how these new special editions adapt to work with the platform that's already been established. And here, again, I'm pleasantly surprised because everything is really nice, bright and fun in this interior. It doesn't distract me from the road drive. It actually just accentuates, I think, the best features of this car. This should be a fun car to drive. And you know what? It kind of is. Okay, the engine could have a little bit more power, but if you really want that, get the Abarth version. Yes, we could have a little bit more crispness of steering. We could have a cleaner gear change. But there's something that feels almost a little agricultural about the gearbox, in that you feel you could throw it around a little bit and it will take that beating. And that's really great for around town, especially when you're going to have to nip in and out of things. And let's not forget, this car has a 9.3 meter turning circle. So that's an awful lot of capability for nipping in and out of stuff. As for getting to go off the lights, well, I'm stalled by a traditional delivery van, but there is plenty enough pep to make sure that you can get out into those tight gaps, which the car is designed to fit into. So it seems a little bit redundant to be talking about 0 to 100 speeds in a car with an 85 horsepower engine. And in any event, we're not on a road that permits that speed, but we are going to show you a 0 to 80, which has less to do with the speed and a lot more to do with the noise. But I think it gives you the character of what the 85 horsepower can deliver. So let's go. And that's 80. Obviously not the fastest acceleration in the world, but you do get a sense that that's more than enough pickup to get you out of any city type problem that you're likely to encounter. It delivers, you put your foot down and there's definitely enough power there telling you you've got what you need. Clearly this is not a car for driving at speed. Now I don't know how well the microphone picked up the noise of the engine, but you really can get a very good sense in any case when you put your foot down, the car will do it. It's not necessarily that happy about it, but it's a well-made engine and I'm sure that it has plenty of pep for years to come. So the base price of this model with the 85 horsepower engine comes in at around about 17,600 euro, but we have about 2,000 euro of options on this. They include 500 for the paint, around about 600 for the Beats audio system. Not quite sure if that's worth it. You really need to listen to it and the standard to see how you feel. We also have city parking feature that gives us detectors right the way around the car, very useful for reversing. And of course, we also have mats in the front because, come on, anything that's not base is going to cost you a little money. But I think adding 2,000 is not really crazy for that price point. So what do we think about the Fiat 500 Mirror Edition? Honestly, I've always liked the way that Fiat 500s look. The new model, even the old model. That's really a big part of our motoring history. And I think the redesign that they did in 2007 was great aesthetically. From the minute you sit in this car, you're gonna notice the size of it. There's a reason why Volkswagen and Mini decided to go bigger with their cars, because you really do benefit from that extra space. But as far as I'm aware, neither one of those cars has a 9.3 meter turning circle, and that's what you get with the Fiat 500. The engines are peppy, And yes, it's a bit of a faff getting in and out of this car because it is so small, and it's a bit of a shame to miss the telescopic steering wheel. But you know what? Once you're in there, you're actually very comfortable. Well done, Fiat, for the new seats. They are a massive improvement, and the driving position, as long as you're not too tall for it, and I must stress that, please do sit in this car before you buy one, is actually pretty great. It's fun, and I think that's the most important thing they had to do with this car. So how about the Mirror Special Edition? Well, I am delighted, and I know Thomas said to me before we came away that he was particularly pleased to see a manufacturer launching a special edition that wasn't at a higher price point, or at least not significantly, because we all like to have something that makes us feel a little bit special. Which is why for me, if I was going for this car, I would absolutely spend the extra 500 on getting this paint finish. I think it looks great. It looks great on the road, and it lets me know that I have something a little different. The connectivity available in the car works, which is good. It doesn't always in all models of different manufacturers, I should stress, not necessarily this one. It works very well. The infotainment is cleanly laid out and integrated, so it doesn't make too big of a statement. It's just there and it just works. There are other features to be added to that in future, such as first Fiat ever, I think, to feature the online breakdown service where you're going to be able to report your car having an issue through the infotainment system. That's a nice feature to see in a car at this price point. In sum, if you're looking for a small city runabout and having fun in it is really the most important thing, I definitely recommend that you give this car a try. Okay, it doesn't have the most refined engine. The gearbox is a little bit agricultural. But you know what? It does put a smile on your face, not only to look at, but also to drive. And for this type of car, I think that's probably the most important thing. So, thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please pop them below. Please subscribe, and we hope we'll see you all again very soon.